we are introducing our new baby, which is Thriving in Abundance talk show. And our tagline is anchored in the word. This afternoon, I'm joined by two gentlemen, Mr. Nick Nzama and Mr. Chris Fire. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Sezota. Thank you.
Hello, Sanbona.
Hi. Can you just make sure that your volume is high enough so that we can be able to hear you? Maybe just raise your voice a little bit. Thank you so much for taking time to show this afternoon, Thriving in Abundance and the word, because the word the topic today is absent and on children. And let me give you this opportunity to perhaps introduce yourselves and your organization. I'll start with you, Nick. Over to you, Osian.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity. I am Nick Nzama. I am an entrepreneur, and I am the founder of Inspiration Institute and Boys to Men Program SA, which is a program aimed at motivating, grooming, and inspiring young boys to become responsible men and become nation builders in the day and age where we are confronted with gender-based violence. We are saying we want to groom men who want to lead, love, and protect.
Men who want to lead, love, and protect. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Brother Nick. But Fire, please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Chris Fire. I'm from Kwamashungi. I'm coming from an organization. It's called Vukansizwa. It's part of a baby of the bigger organization called Mainze Community Development. So Vukansizwa just was brought up, I think, last year. It's just seeing the need and the problems that the young people have. So then, as a father, it came out to my heart to let us just bring the boys together. That's why we call it a young men's seminar. So in Gogo, this is so just it's a seminar to teach and encourage young people, because we understood that many boys don't have fathers to look for or to look at, or else abazoba groomer and to manhood. So that's why I say Vukansizwa. So we hope by say Vukansizwa they will come alive and become men. That's what we are.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for that introduction. According to the HSRC, 60% of children in South Africa grow up with absent fathers, and that has a huge impact on our children, especially boy children. I'd like us to just touch on a little bit on your own personal stories. Nick, I've seen your interviews and listened to your interviews on radio and on TV where you tell us about your own story. So would you perhaps just like to touch on your own story in terms of your upbringing, growing up without a biological father?
Look, it's a story. No matter how many times I tell it, it always makes me emotional each time ngikhuluma ngaso, because I look at my life now and I look at my children. Some of them abangekho eduze kwami, and I see ukuthi inkinga yaqala emumva. I was raised by Uma, who used to work as a domestic worker. She used to live with us, me and my siblings, wherever she worked. So we literally grew up without a home. We went living from one place to another due to the fact ukuthi my father decided ukuthi I was not his child. And emva kwalokho he came back and apologized to my mother. He got her pregnant again, and then he ran off again. So we literally grew up living from place to place. But after that, my mother did everything within her powers with my siblings, and she did everything, absolutely everything. I mean, we dressed in some of the best stores ever, but there was still always that yearning but I want to know my father. I want to see my father, even though my mother had kept on telling me horrific stories. But as a child, you always think, no, unama issues, no baba, but so I would sneak up and he kept on proving to me which he didn't care about me. I tried many times. He started only acknowledging me when I became older. I got a scholarship to Kearney. Only then he would be proud and start telling people, that is my son, and my son goes to Kearney College, But by then, my mother had met this wonderful man who absolutely adored us. He got us our first home. Hence I bear his surname today, because to me, he showed me what being a real man is all about. Being a real man is not only about having flashy things, but it's about taking responsibility and doing what we call manning up. So basically, that is my background. In the process, though, I made a lot of mistakes. I've had children, and my eldest son, I had him when I was 19 in matric. Ngangaqhubeka noma wakhe ngaqhubeka ngihambe ngizalisa left right and center, and some of those ingane zigcwele entabeni, so to say, ngokwesiZulu ke kuthiwa ingane igcwele entabeni. Only usumdala do you start realizing ukuthi hayi bo yazi ukuthini ngiphinda, I'm repeating the very same thing that was done unto me by my father, hence now I've started doing lento engiyenza manje ukuthi, some of the things you might see some of your things not materializing or coming together, and you wonder ukuthi ngithakatho bani, might be wished or something, but it's simply that you are not manning up and you're not doing the things that you are supposed to be doing as a man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nick. I like it. I have to send a shout out to your mother, who happens to be my friend. Wonderful mama lapha unzama kwanyuswa, a group of wonderful women that we work with at Econo Foundation, and we absolutely love them. So nyabuzwa, my brother, I like it when you say you used to dress from the best stores. BG.
No sales house. Yeah.
I get you. Let me allow you, Bafaya, to just come through also with your own story, which I know because I know both gentlemen very well.
It's fun. There are things common in the stories. Kodwa kwami mina ngiqala ukuvula amehlo ngilapha kwamasho emaplangweni. Ubaba wayekhona, umama wayengekho, umama wayesebenza ejardini, so abazange bashade. Sibongo lesifayo, sibongo sakama akusona sikababa. Sahlala kubo kababa. But ubaba he was bandla msori wayesigebengu esikhulu. So at 6 years old, nganquma ngathi nomfowethu uJoel Fawa wagcina sesitasa ibhola. I think 4 or 5 last weekend sanqubhi ngesifane naye, because he was always in jail, esabeka nokhuluma nasasimsaka. So we didn't desire, there's nothing ethandeka ngaye esingabuka kuyo ukuthi want to be men. Thina noma sehlukana sesingasahlala ndawo ngoba vele sasihlala sosikhathi esincane kubo sambe sithola nasiye kwenye indawo nje unikade yahlala nala ufanda ubaba othize nabe right ubuxoshwe kuleyo ndawo kanjalo until ngase ngikhulile umama wathola ubaba washada naye ngase ngisebenza. In other words, ekukhuleni kwami angizange be no baba eduze, kodwa ubaba lo oshada stepfather ngathi mangivashe ejardini asimbone esebenza garage asinikeze izinto asikhombisa uthando nje. It was like uyabuka into osithandayo. But ke okukhulu ukuthi kahle thina ngabe saba imdlambi ama hooligans, because our father was just
yes. I'll encourage you to, as much as possible, try to relate the story in English, so that when our viewers from who are not conversant in isiZulu will be able to get it as well. Thank you.
All right. Yes, actually, our dad was not a good idol to us. But fortunately, I don't know how we didn't become just total hooligans. We didn't do these wrong things. Maybe it's because from childhood we just hated the life. So in other words, though it didn't impact bad on us, because already we despised the way he lived. And then we thought our mother could provide we listened to her and tried to follow whatever she told us. And fortunately, and the men that we met, I must also mention that I went to a school, it's called Umgeni, I met a gentleman by the name of Ntandengco. He became a father, a teacher. I think I learned from him a lot of things. He loved us so much as children. He took us as children. He taught us a lot of things. Then I became fond of being a father from that time. Well, until I was fortunate, when I was working, then I became a child of God. I decided that I would try to rectify everything that I had done and my father has done, so that my children can have a better life. So, but more than anything, what made me come to this program, I mean, this Vuka Africa, because I saw even our neighbors, there are very few boys that has good fathers. So I said, I must become a father to the boys that don't have a father. That's my story.
Okay, thank you so much. Coming back to you, Nick. Now, you've already told us about your story. How did this have an impact on your personality and character? The fact that your biological father was not part of your life, even though I think you were blessed with a stepfather. Shout out to all the stepfathers out there who are doing the most. We really acknowledge you.
Look, for me, I think what it did is that it created something that I always now regard as a very bad trait and a bad character within me. Yes, I was a go-getter. Yes, I became somebody who wanted to change my life and wanted, but more than anything, I wanted to compensate for the things that I didn't have growing up. I wanted to make sure that I had all the fleshy things, because for me, those were the things that defined being a real man. You know, so you end up chasing all the wrong things in life. I ended up chasing all the wrong things that I shouldn't have been chasing in my life. And it created a lot of issues that now problems that I sit with. But more importantly, one of the things that I've learned, and Nakona I've learned through my wife, Uguti, you know, I had this victim mentality. Uguti, the world owed me because I grew up without a father. You know, I'm a victim. You know, everything that went wrong in my life, I would make an excuse. You know, and therefore I was justified in doing this and I was justified in doing that, which actually starts with a small thing, but ends up growing and actually becoming problematic in a lot of other ways. So I realize now that it's a big problem. And I realize now through self-introspection, one of the things is that this thing, and then I became used to it, which I would always use that as an excuse, even as an adult, you know. So it became that I would say that has been the worst contributing, the worst thing that impacted my character as a young man and also as an adult male. You know, of always wanting to be a victim and not realizing, which, yes, it's fine. I grew up without a father, but there's a lot of other kids who've grown up without fathers who are fine. So this thing of actually doing wrong things, versus, you know, it's because I didn't have a father. Yes, it does have a big role that it plays, you know, but we need to rise above our challenges as Pegana now.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Nick. Shout out to the wives out there who are able to see beyond the brokenness. Our
definitely
father and husbands and are able to create something beautiful like you have, my brother, with your family. But Fire, you have mentioned that at some point your life changed when you gave your life over to Christ. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I would like the young boys to hear my story. Yes. I had started working being those everything was going well.
Yeah.
Well, I was staying with my mother and my stepfather, so things were just very good. But deep inside, I was very much lonely. I was lonely within a group of people. I had a vacuum that I didn't know how to. I started drinking much, trying to fill up the vacuum. It didn't. So until I said, no, if life is gonna be so bad, I better take it out, take my life. I wanted to commit suicide. I decided that. I went to Maritzburg and told my best friend that, my friend, you're seeing me for the last time. I missed the bridge where I was going to throw myself out of the train between Maritzburg and Camperdown. So then I dropped off at Hammersdale. I walked around and found a rope and a tree. I sat down. But when I was sitting down, something said to me, you can even die, but won't disappear. It won't be the end of you. And where you are going, there's God. Then, I got frightened because I couldn't face this man called God because I knew I wasn't living right. But then I remember that I heard people at school saying, anybody who comes to God with Jesus is acceptable. I said, even myself, thinking within myself. Then I said, I just knelt down. I said, God, I don't know this Jesus of yours. I don't know how to pray, but I accept him. When after doing that, I felt so brave. Then something said, no, go and live. Life will never be the same. So that's how I became a Christian. Then I came home, then I just cried. They asked my parents what happened. I didn't tell them. Then on Sunday, I took the Bible and I wore the coat and went to the church that I knew. And my neighbors and friends, everyone said, hey, there was a lot of noise. Chris is wearing a coat and having a Bible, is going to church. It was just funny thing. Everybody just was surprised. But I went there and I accepted Jesus Christ. Then things started changing. Because what I lacked is self-confidence, you know what I mean? When you had to humble, to having your own home, that comes, you can be good at something, but that you don't have this confidence in yourself. So I got happiness, but I was also the point that I want to put down here. I got so joyous. People know, who, like you, know the person, I'm always happy. Because that joy I found in the Lord only. And I also want to encourage people that even if you feel lonely or if you are sorrowful all the time, this is whatever, but Jesus can feel that joy. It's been many, many years now. It's over 40 years. I've been like, oh, feel good.
Oh, praise God. Praise God. Honestly, you are fire. Indeed, you are always joyful. Joy, it is a fruit of the Spirit. So to young men out there who are going through the most and probably do not have fathers and have this particular challenge, suicide is not the way to go. Perhaps you must consider just exploring this God through Jesus Christ. Because look at this handsome man, Chris Fire, today, who made that decision and everything changed for the better. Thank you so much, Bob Fire. So you guys have got your organizations. Nick, can I just give you this opportunity to probably tell us exactly what Boys to Men does?
All right. Boys to Men, what the pillar Boys to Men over the years has been AMA camps, running AMA camps, where I bring in men who've been through life and who've been through things. In other words, in our camps, I don't want men who theorize a lot. I want men who are going to be practical, because kids go through practical problems. And sometimes we over-theorize solutions and then we speak above ingane. So I need speakers. I invite speakers who are able to speak at their level, who are able to speak realistic things and things that kids go through or young boys go through on a day-to-day basis. So we bring in various speakers to the camps, but as I'm saying, men who are able to speak realistically. So it's a 3-day camp. It gets held, the camps are held over school holidays, be it June or December holidays. Specifically, lately, we've targeted predominantly the 16 days of activism, because I've always been of the belief that the message of 16 days of activism targets the victim and not the perpetrator. And you can speak to women as much as you want about their rights and not being abused. But if a woman knows her rights and she goes back to a man who does not respect or does not even care about those rights, it's pointless. So we can groom our young girls as much as we want. But who are those girls going to marry? Boys who are ungroomed, boys who are unnurtured. So we need to nurture our young boys as much as we nurture our girls, because that is where things become problematic. So the program is aimed at making boys be able to be vulnerable, because we've been taught all along this thing, Yoguti, tigers don't cry. A man must be tough. A man must be hard. You know, a man must be a provider. A man, a man must be the rock, and he must be the leader of the family. Leaders do cry. And a great leader is a leader who allows himself to be led at certain times. You know, I always say, that old saying, in my household, I'm the head, but my wife is the neck. The head can never turn without the neck. You know, so as much as I can claim to be the head, but I don't control myself, you know. So the main thing, the crux of the matter is, we need to teach our young boys to learn to be vulnerable. One of the biggest problems we have in society today is that men are not able to talk and speak about the things that worry them, that trouble them. They contain things, you know, no matter how troubled he may be, he will contain things. Why? Because we fear being ridiculed. We fear being laughed at. If I show vulnerability, I'm going to be demonstrating myself as weak. It's okay to be weak at times. It is okay to cry at times. So that is the basic, the most simplest way I can describe it. More importantly, the main thing is that now we are targeting to launch Spend a Day with the Boy Child. Why spend a day with the boy child? Because I'm of the belief that each man or everybody out there, not just men, we need to all adopt a young boy and start teaching him, talking to him about what being a real man is all about. So that's the one that we're targeting now, that we're moving on now. Would you find a day in the calendar where we're going to be saying, spend a day with the boy child? More importantly, lastly, it's men themselves. I'm trying to say, let's get men, get adults to learn to talk about their problems. You know, it's pointless killing your family. It's pointless killing your wife. It's pointless killing your family. It's pointless beating your wife up because she doesn't listen to you or she's swearing at you. You know, we need to learn to walk away. But more than anything, we need to learn to love ourselves. Because if I love myself enough, I will love myself enough to say, I love Futhi with all my heart, with all my being, with all my soul. But if she decides to leave me, in spite of whatever I've done for her, she's not worth me sacrificing my life. She's not worth me going to jail and leaving my kids behind. You know, who's going to provide for my kids? Who's going to look after them? Who's going to nurture them? So that's the most important thing. We need as men to love ourselves beyond knowing no matter how much money you've spent on that woman, she's not worth your life. Let it go.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Self-love is important. But first you must love God. Because when you love God, then it's easier to love yourself. I feel like I have to emphasize that, because you first have this connection with God, because, you know, God's love is so abundant, you know, it's deep, it's wide, it's just amazing. So you do have to first love God, then it's easy to love yourself. Then you can love your wife, your children, and everybody else. Coming back to you, Babafaya, can you tell us about Vukansizwa and what you do?
Vukansizwa just was born, got birth last year. It was at a corner women's conference. I was praying with women, and one of them is interviewing us. We're supposed to talk, pray about men. They said pray about men. Then I cried. I said this is too deep. Maybe we need a seminar. So Sister Zoto suggested on July. Said no. You said we want a seminar, then we'll help you. So we did our first one. Then we did our second one during 16 days of activism, as my brother has been saying, taking the story to the perpetrators. As I do agree with you, my brother, it's useless to talk to the victim and shout. It's just useless. I don't say it's good, it's useless, but it doesn't help much because we have to talk to the victim. So we did our program also there. So what I'm looking at, actually, I'm not a specialist. I'm just a father who just concerned because I'm surrounded with many children. They don't have fathers. I look, Brother Nick, let me tell you this story. One day I was talking to my son, scolding him for doing wrong. He was with his friends on the street. One boy just cried, said, you are so lucky. We've got somebody that can correct you. Your father's loving. I've never experienced that. Phew, I cried. Then our perspective changed. I looked around, I said, there are no fathers. Then I said, God, please let me be the father. I'm still learning to be the father. But we just try, like we need people like you. Because when we sit and discuss, boys do open up. So now they need the guidance of going forward. I'm also pleading to men. Though we've done, all of us have done many things wrong, but we can be corrected and make sure that it doesn't go to down to our sons. Because that's the thing, that's how we can save this world. Because if the boys are not right, we've got a daughter, he's gonna marry her, then it's gonna go back to the same thing. So in other words, you also at the same time, I can say that you cannot put a fence around your family, because they are going to be affected. You know, when you teach your children to do the right thing, but the others don't. But because those who do the wrong are many, so this one is going to be forced to join the group and do the wrong thing. But if you teach the whole community, you are saving even your own children.
Yeah.
So we were just trying to help. We also work with women. We bring women in our, because also there's something that they understand better than men. We were raised, both of us, we were raised by women. So there's something that they know, although they lack something, but also bring them together. Also, I must also put this point as brothers and sisters, that women, if a boy, okay, we've got a child with a boy, don't talk bad of him all the time. It's like when you divorce a man, don't talk bad about the person of divorce. But that also creates something, confusion and hatred. And it could also spill to many things. So we try to protect them and give encouragement. Christ is good because he also teaches us to get the best out of a person. Get out of a person until the person is right.
Okay, all right.
I can say.
Avoid talking badly about the fathers of your children. It doesn't matter what is it that they haven't done properly, but they still remain their fathers. They still remain their fathers. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let me go to our Facebook page, because indeed we are live on Facebook this afternoon. Let me go and check if we've got any comments or questions from our viewers on Facebook. I see there Lapaya Usis Koliswa Uti, may this network grow. Okay, so you guys have got it cut out for you. Because, you know, listening to your story, Nick, and what the organization does to you, Bafa, and what the organization does, you almost feel like you can have, you know, this in every other township, you know what I'm saying, so that you know, this whole thing just spreads, and Ngaleondlela will be able to, I think, make a difference that we would like to see with these organizations. So now I see Ndodana wam lapha uSizwe Dalusi Mkhwanazi uthi powerful from Nick Nzama. Usis Pumzile says, yes, Nick is right, that the only way out is to face the pain and rise above it. Face the pain and rise above it. Males,
Definitely.
they are just too scared of a pain. That's what I've noticed.
It's not really Uguti, we are scared of a pain. I think Uguti, it's what you call social conditioning. Men have been socialized and conditioned to be tough and to always show strength. So you always want to show strength, even when strength is not necessary, where you're supposed to be compassionate. We've not been taught or taught to be compassionate. And that's the one thing we need to be to learn. Because who is supposed to know what compassion is about, because fathers are the ones who will usually tell you what you need to be tough, as in clean. But you find that a boy who's been raised by a mother who's supposed to be really soft, you find which is even harder. Why is that? It means that some way, both men and females have done something wrong in raising the boy child. It's not only, yes, it's easy to say it's absent fathers, but there is something also that even mothers sometimes also contribute towards the boy child being tough. What does it tell the child? Because you're telling me about my own flesh and blood. So what am I? You're calling me a dog. So and science tells you when you tell somebody something negative about themselves, the brain repeats it 10 times and it gets stored in the subconscious mind. So if you tell me Nginja, that gets repeated 10 times and it gets stored in my subconscious mind. And the only way for me to get that out is through self-talk and to actually repeat, I'm not a dog, I'm not a dog, I'm not a dog, I'm not a dog. So how many of us actually even do that? So if we need to resolve these things, we need to understand the human psyche and how the human mind works. Some of these things, one of the things we've for the longest time we've ignored what you call mental abuse or psychological abuse, which is actually the one of the biggest forms of abuse you can ever put anybody through. Emotional abuse. Sorry, that's the right word I'm looking for. Emotional abuse. So when you put a child through that trauma of telling them how bad your father is, you as an adult are ready to process that. You know it, you understand it. Why traumatize the child and tell them the same thing? Yes, he needs to know. And let them know, look, your dad, this and that and that and that happened. But don't take a child who doesn't know anything and tell them, because you are damaging their mind and they're not ready to process that information. Okay. So we need to be careful of that.
All right. Okay. Ladies, let's be mindful what we say to our children out there, because sometimes they're not ready to process that kind of information. So let's just make sure that we parent more with love, All right, so I'm just going to go back to our Facebook page again and check if we have any questions. Pumzile there is asking, what can you say to a girl who does not know the love of a father? Babfai.
Yeah, it's equally bad. Maybe worse in a girl. Well, I'm not a person who studies research, but I know that the researcher says the girls that don't know the love of their fathers, they become reckless in life. They sell their bodies to men. They don't know how to behave to men. So it becomes worse, because as you know that if I've got a boy and a girl, the girl will be more attracted closer to the father. It means that a girl does need something from the father as well as the boy. So if she doesn't have the father, she doesn't have standards. Even to choose, it doesn't have a standard. So it negatively affects her even more.
Yeah. Okay. Nick, girl who doesn't know the love of a father.
In African language, we say a child is raised by a community. And there was a reason for that saying, because in the olden days, I don't know if you remember, I spoke about victim mentality earlier on. In the olden days, during the early days of apartheid, a lot of fathers would go and work in the mines and work away from home and what have you. So those children grew up without their fathers in any case. So, but though some of those children, our mothers and the likes, grew up to be outstanding women. So we need to move away from also this thing of also playing the blame game, so to say. But having said that, like Ubab Fire was saying, every child needs both their parents' love and attention and affection. So find a father figure in today's society, which becomes very dangerous because now we've got this thing of raping children. You know, so how does a child find a reliable mentor? You know, that's the difficult part, which I don't have a solution to, because right now I've got a son who's languishing in prison because he found a mentor or somebody to confide in, a 63-year-old woman who ended up sexually grooming him for 4 years. You know, so it's very difficult to say who can you trust with your child out there.
Yeah, no, yes, I hear you, my brother. We'll probably come back to that story if you're comfortable, though, to share.
No, I'm comfortable.
Story,
I'm comfortable.
Okay, let me go back to our Facebook page and see if we've got any questions. We need, Sbu Zuma says, we need role models so that our kids can learn from them rather than learning the lifestyle from TV, internet, because it's mostly untrue and unreal. And then the same guy says, Osbu says, my boy was very angry and told me, Umama called me a dog. That was 20 years ago, but it's still painful. Namanja. So we really need to be, I think, mindful of what we say to our children. Yes, I'm just wanting to check if there are any other questions out there. Please, I would like to encourage the people that are watching us on Facebook Live to please do ask, feel free and comfortable to ask the questions. The gentlemen are here to be able to answer those questions. Coming back to your story, my brother Nick, because I did listen to some of your clips, and I think to a large extent that has motivated you to, you know, make sure that you do what you do with your organization. Do you want to just briefly share, you know, that story?
Look, as I said earlier, I had a child when I was 19, and I didn't carry on with his mother. I carried on with my life. I had other children, and then eventually I got married. And when we discovered the boy was no longer going to school, because I had a lot of issues with his mother. Because of my anger with his mom, I neglected the boy. You know, there was a lot of issues with his mother. So between myself, which not only she was wrong, as I said, there was a lot of wrongdoing from my side. I don't want to play the victim card again. So, but in that, the child ended up suffering. We found out that he was now in the taxi ranks at the age of 13. So I took him and I found a school for him, and he started schooling. And in that, now you've got a child who's being raised in a different way and a different upbringing. Now you bring him into an environment where myself and my wife are very strict in terms of what can be done by kids and what have you. He becomes rebellious. You know, he becomes, yet to the outside world, the outside world sees this angel. He's one of the most obedient boys you'll ever come across. But inly, especially when I'm not around, he becomes something else to his stepmother. You know, so, and I, as a father, when I was being told of his wrongdoings, I did not step up. You know, I protected peace in the family. So I would, you know, try and want to keep him happy. This side, I want to keep the wife happy. And he ended up going and confiding in a teacher at school. The teacher was 63 at the time, he was 14. So, and we ended up finding out now that he's now going to and fro and to this teacher's house. And we thought, oh, wow, the teacher loves him. So he would spend a lot of time at her house in Umlazi. And eventually, cut the long story short, in 2017, we found out that she kept on giving him her car. And at the time, he didn't have a driver's license. And I had said to him, you're not going to touch Imoto until you finish your matric. So she was giving him a car. And then I found out when I was a chairperson of the governing body at the school, I reported the case. We sat down as the governing body. She got suspended from school because she would carry on. And we found out it was other boys as well, not just my son. So she was suspended. She went to teach at another school. Later on that year, I got a call from my daughter. I was in Johannesburg, and she said, "You need to come back down, Baba." I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Well, Sandile is being wanted by the police. Apparently, he's killed Mama Abe Tandananai." Mama Abe Tandananai, what are you talking about? She says, "Yeah, he was apparently Sandile was actually having an affair with this granny that he kept on visiting." So to me, it just didn't ring. At the time, he was 19 when he, this mama was 67. My mom just turned 61 last year. So this woman was way older than my mother, which he could be sleeping with my child, for what good reason? So apparently, I don't know, we don't know till today the actual reasons for why the boys murdered him, but my son and his friend ended up killing this woman, and when they went and dumped the body in the forest in Gwandengezi. So the other boy got sentenced to 11 years in prison, and he said that my son had paid him or promised him to pay him 500 rand to kill this lady because she was doing things to him. So my son then was given 25 years plus 5 for premeditated murder. He was convicted last year in August 30 last year. So he's in prison at the moment. It's a painful experience for me because it's my eldest son. And, I always have said that he's my son, but he did not steal chocolate. What this woman did is indespicable. It's disgusting. It's whatever, but she did not deserve to die. No person deserves to die at the hand of another person. He's my son. I love him to bits. I go to prison. I see him. I support him being recovering and him being rehabilitated, but I do not support the act that he did. I love him to bits, and I hope as parents we learn Uguti, some of the decisions we make affect kids more than anything, because he was a good boy. He confided in the wrong person who ended up, this thing is called sexual grooming. She was sexually grooming him. And I always ask Uguti, had it been two girls who had conspired and killed an old male who was raping them, what would society have said? Would those girls be in jail? So we need to look at certain things and re-look at how we approach certain things. So the long and short of it is that I've learned, Uguti, as much as he was wrong, but I played an even bigger role by neglecting him. I could have played a better role as a father in his life. And I'm trying now to make amends, and actually even my other children, and start reaching out to them and actually making sure that I'm there and present for their lives. Yes, it's never too late to change. So as men, we make a lot of mistakes, but it's never too late to fix them. Do something. If you've got a child out there, go out there and find them. Irregardless, go out there and find them. Reach out. You might change his life. You might save him from committing very serious mistakes. Don't let your son suffer like mine is suffering right now.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. Again, for being vulnerable enough to share that story openly. And we're just so grateful that relationship yako with your son now is improving. And, Bafaya, having listened to Historis Kaputnik, now coming back to Uvukansizwa, what are the things that you feel that Uvukansizwa should maybe zoom into, to just try and make sure what other boys do not get into a similar situation like in the Brother Nick?
Well, I'm so grateful that I had Brother Nick's story. Though it's touchy, but it's going to be useful to healing the nation, my brother.
Yes,
yeah.
Maybe that's why we're here. We're doing this so that we can share the stories and in the process heal the nation.
Yes. What I usually tell the boys, just a few things, is that try and be in contact, touch with your boy child. Though maybe you cannot take him, because most of the boys have got children out of the wedlocks. That's what we know. It's just normal now. So try and get and be in touch, even if they don't allow, because the parents of the girl or the girl say, no, don't be in contact with this person. But he must try. He must know that the boy loves him. If you've got a way, you are married, it's better to get them as early as possible, because it's very easy. It's very difficult to teach a grown-up boy new things that he wasn't brought up with. You know, when you bring your child to organized home, but now it's been brought up in a different way, then it becomes so difficult. It's like I'm super, but you're trying to help me, as my brother has been saying that. So we must try to collect, and we females, please do allow the boys or the men to collect their children and try together. It's better when it's happening, you are together, unlike when it's scattered. Also, what I will also that has come out of my mind, as my brother has been saying, anger, because our boys are angry. The psychological, clinical psychologist, Dr. Nene, said in one of our seminars, said the boys, the children are angry from birth, from their mother's tummies, because the girl hates the child for some reason, maybe because she was rejected or he was rejected by the father. So from before he is born, he suffers hatred. So he comes out with this hate. He goes on. So women do also add to this problem that you are creating. Even a boy try is not working, or he gets a lot. Just when he brings what he brings, but there are words. So please I'll plead with women that let to join us and help bring up the boy or the girl in the right way, not with words, because words are very much hateful, and you cannot erase the words when you've spoken to the children.
Okay, the role of mothers is critical. It's really critical out there, how we, what we say to our children. Like I was saying before, it doesn't matter what the situation is between the two of you as adults, but let's try by all means not to involve the children, because like Nick was saying, perhaps they are not at a point whereby they can understand the dynamics of a relationship and in terms of what's happening to the parents. Let me go back to our Facebook page and see if we've got any questions or comments. Thank you so much, gentlemen, Nick, for sharing your story, and Mapfire for your contribution on this matter. Pumzile is saying the cycle of absent fathers truly needs to be broken. Such dialogues are needed on the broader platforms. Our streets are full of angry, broken, and shattered young people, and even older men, because of absent fathers. We pray for healing. Okay. Bafaya, the role of prayer.
Oh, I would say I'm the product of prayer. First of all, I don't know. I believe when I got saved at the Hlathini still, somebody had prayed. I just believe that. I don't know who had prayed. I believe that. So I think prayer plays a very important role, especially when you don't pray for yourself and your children only. You know, it's very important that we pray for the entire society. Because in Zulu, something, it comes back, so it's like sowing. So we really need prayer, and there's a place where you cannot say anything to a child, but the Lord will be able to represent you somehow. So prayer goes beyond what you can do. You can study, you can be a strict father, you can be a loving father, but you need something more than natural ways. So prayer plays a very important role, because also when you pray, you also are able to look at yourself. See, then that's also where you can recognize that also, of course, some mistakes you are contributing to the whole thing. Okay, lastly, we mustn't stop. We must stop blaming. Or somebody has got, every one of us has got contribution we put so that our society is so spoiled like this. Somebody has done something even being quiet is also a contribution, a negative contribution.
But Nick, the role of prayer, I know you are a believer.
Prayer changes things.
Amen.
Prayer changes things.
Amen.
You know, I always say, Uguti, no matter what you go through in life, you know, one of the biggest mistakes that we've made as people, one of the bad teachings or expectations is that we sometimes pray and we expect God to come down and we see him saying, okay, my child, here's your answer. Prayers, a lot of prayers are answered, and they are answered through people around us, but we choose to ignore because as people, we are judgmental. We judge people by material values, and therefore we ignore a lot and we miss a lot of the answers to our prayers because we are expecting, and we forget one of the most fundamental things in the Bible, that a human being is made in the image of God. So when you expect God to answer you, God has answered a lot of your prayers, but you've missed them because you are busy judging the answer that because you are expecting the answer to come to you in a fancy, delivered in some fancy Range Rover or a fancy check or millions in your account, when God opens doors through other people, just because when are those people, you look down upon them, therefore you ignore them. So one of the things that we need to actually start understanding is that our prayers are answered through other people. So when people try and reach out to you, if the mother of your child is a drunkard or whatever, don't be judgmental on her. If the father of your child is a drunkard or is a useless person, don't be judgmental on him, because there are prayers that will be answered through that person, through that drunkard. My mom always used to tell us, in your way up in this life, respect everyone, because you don't know who you'll meet on your way down. So we need to respect each and every person. We need ubuntu. We need to be humane towards each other, because otherwise we're going to destroy society by simply being judgmental. And we end up saying God does not respond to prayers. God, maybe he would not respond in the time that you need him to respond, but God eventually responds in his own time. God responds, but we need to learn to pray the right prayer. And the right prayer says, God, do not remove these challenges from in front of me, but God, give me the strength to overcome these challenges. There is no ways you will know what it's like to be a winner without running a race. There is no ways you will know what it's like to be on top of the mountain without climbing the mountain. So if you see a challenge in front of you, if you are a single parent out there, if you are a child growing up without a father out there, don't say Nkosi mina ngoba ngenzeni noma Nkosi ngoba kunjani. Say, God, give me the strength. God, give me the strength, give me the wisdom to make the right decisions, to make right choices for myself. And say, more importantly, God, sow seeds of love in my heart so that I don't grow up bitter and angry, because that bitterness you will pass on to your children, and those children will pass it on to their children. You end up having what we call generational curses. Those are the things we need to break. Like one of the viewers was saying, we need to break the cycle of absent fathers. But more than breaking the cycle of absent fathers, we need to break the cycle of bitterness, because what creates a lot of this is bitterness. We need to stop being bitter as people, and we need to stop being victims, like Ubabfaya was saying, and start owning up and just sowing seeds of love. There is so much hatred out there. What we need more than anything else is love. We just need love. Whether a person has got something to give or not, we need love as a nation, as a people.
Yes. Love. We do need love as a people. We do need love as a nation. Like I said earlier, if you have love with God, if you are a child of God and you've experienced the kind of love that you can get from God, then it just becomes easier, to be able to love yourself, as I was saying, and to love other people. Now, I want to come back to your organizations and talk about the issue of resources. I know for non-profit making organizations, I also have one. The resources are always a challenge. Fortunately, because we have a profit-making business, so we're able to be constantly feeding the other one. The issue of resources, I think there is no doubt or questioning in my mind that what we are discussing here is critical for nation building, is critical for moral regeneration. You know, we have to come out of this period. Our new normal as a nation and as the word, it should be able to touch really on these kind of issues and provide solutions more than anything. And it is my belief that your organizations are really working towards finding solutions. I just want to maybe start with you, Bafaya. Issue of my resources. I know, because I mean, like our foundation, Ikono Foundation, worked with Vukansizwa to be able to deliver the launch. But you need to be able to get the resources to run the organization. What would you like to say to the people that have the resources out there?
Yeah, I would just plead on behalf of these kids, on behalf of these men, because we've got something to say. Even the dialogue, it helps, because you have seen, they just break up and they just talk. They are not ashamed to talk to us, to confide their problems. So we're just there to help them. So if they help us, help our children, really, our children need help. If we're going to have a future tomorrow, we have to help, even especially these people, the boys, and everyone actually. So we need to be helped in any way that a person can do that. But it's not for our own good. It's because I'm doing this because I'm just moved as a father. See what I can do. There are very few of us, very few fathers, especially in the townships. You can look at that down the line, there are 20 houses, there are only 2 fathers, maybe one is sober. Somebody that's sober then must take the responsibility to be a father. We're going back to the Zulu culture where a father is a father of everyone around, because there's other than no fathers. So anyone that can help in any way, not for our own good, for the children, and to fight this crime, this escalating like this. So please do.
Okay, thank you so much, Bafaya. It's not for Bafaya, it's for these young men out there in the townships that desperately need this help and assistance and love, so that they can grow up and be different people compared to probably, you know, their absent fathers. Nick, resources.
I don't even know where to start when it comes to resources. I think the biggest challenge with running a program like this is because it's not a so-called fashionable program or initiative to do. Because talking about the boy child, people look at you and say, boys, men are already, I mean, now you're talking patriarchy, and, you know, and because the focus should be, according to society, on the young girl. And for me, I say, you can groom your young girl. You can empower your young girl. Who is she going to marry? A man who is ungroomed, a man who is unnurtured. So we need funding. We need resources more than anything. I mean, right now, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that through demand, you know, we're in the process of trying to set up, obviously beyond COVID, a counseling center. Because I've realized, a lot of parents, actually, that is what is needed out there, because people need a sustainable program beyond the camps, because camps come and go. So what happens throughout the year? So we're in the process of setting up Spazamiswe COVID, of trying to find space and spaces around the country to set up ama counseling centers for single mothers, for men, for young boys, to actually help. So we need all the resources. We need all the funding that is available out there. You know, we do social media campaigns, and those campaigns, I mean, to do graphic design, Sizota, you'll know, I mean, graphic designing is very expensive, setting up websites and whatever. So we need all the resources. But more importantly than anything else, it's like Ubafai was saying, it's not just about funding in. People we've become caught up in the cycle of saying things that are politically correct. We want to be politically correct when we address these things. It's time we start calling a spade, you know, and it's time that we start speaking and not trying to sugarcoat things. You know, we need to start talking about the issues that affect men. and be honest with them. And just because we talk about empowering the boy child, we're not saying, disempower the woman. We're saying gender equality. We're saying at the end of the day, for women to have rights, we need men respecting those rights and knowing those rights. And we need a broader and different type of education now. And for that, we need resources to do that. So it's not just about making statements out there. Lastly, it's not about talking about gender-based violence when it trends, when a particular individual has been killed and it makes headlines in the media, and then suddenly everybody gets up and talks about it. It's about talking consistently. People get killed every day. Just because somebody picks it up on one day and that person has got a large social media following and then everybody wants to talk about it, it doesn't mean on any other day it's not happening. Women get killed every day. People get killed every day. Women get raped every day. So the few that actually become beacons and the ones that get spoken about, yes, they highlight the problem, but it doesn't mean just because it's not highlighted every day, it doesn't happen. So we need to be consistent with positive messaging out there, and we need to stop being reactive as a society. We need to start being proactive and initiate and do things, that actually are going to encourage and educate and make sure that people are doing the right thing every day, not only to try and actually, as I said, I can use the example of my son. I can't change what has already happened with him. He's already paying his price. But however, I can use his experience to actually make sure that other boys don't fall into the same trap. They don't fall into the same cycle.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really hoping that the people that are watching us today that have access to these resources, sometimes it may not necessarily be money as in cash, but it can be your time, like for instance, here at EconoThrive Global, we have a resident skill of event management. So it was easy for us to support Vukansizwa to put together the seminar because it's a skill that we have. So I feel like I do need to emphasize this point that sometimes you may not necessarily have the cash, but you have a particular skill. Butnik, you're talking about the counseling centers, it's not just the building, it's the resources, the manpower, the people that are trained counselors that are going to be able to offer the services. So it's just the people that have got the skill, please come to the fore to volunteer your skills and services so we can make sure that our nations become better nations, especially in Africa as a continent. It's important that we make sure that the Africa that is meant to be rising does rise indeed, but we have to make sure that we deal with these issues, especially the issue of a boy child, because we need our men to be leaders. As you were saying, Butnik, that you can be the head, but yes, it's important that you should be the head to give direction. Yes, the neck is also there because obviously you cannot move with the neck, but the neck also cannot function without the head. So, it works hand in hand. Let me just go check our Facebook page again and see if we've got any questions or comments before we close. Quickly, all right. Okay, Lwazi Mkhwana is saying love conquers all things, amen. In order for the boy and girl child to live righteously and thrive in this world, parents must overcome their own problems because their child is a pillar of the nation. They are the future of the nation and the world. Problem-free co-parenting is a must and must be yearned for the growth of a boy and a girl child. That's Ulwazi Mkhwanazi out there. And I've got a comment from someone. It says, Grace Pastor here, Babu Fire. It says, I look forward to further conversations with Chris. This is exciting. This is exciting. This is exciting, Bafaya. Grace Family Church already is responding to say they look forward to have further conversations with you, Bafaya. So this is good. I love this. God is amazing. He does answer, and most of the time he's quick to give us answers. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for giving me your precious time this afternoon. I really, really appreciate it. So let me allow you this opportunity to give us your parting shot. What can you say to the boys, to the fathers, to the mothers, to the funders? Because these are the areas that we've touched on. And I noted, my brother Nick, that you touched on the issue of gender-based violence. It's a topic for another day because there's a lot. There are too many layers to these things, but we will just, one day at a time, and until we get our nations to a place where they're supposed to be. Bafaya, your parting shot.
As I said, my father was not a good example at all. But look at me. People say I'm direct opposite. So Jesus comes in and make it different. Me and my dad, that just is like in the East and the West. So if everything has failed, Jesus can change things. And he can bring a new hope. He can make a new generation out of you. Never mind how you were born and you brought out. So my closing words says Jesus is the answer to everything. Amen.
Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way. I couldn't let that opportunity pass. Bafaya, and you understand this. I'm a typical worshiper. My brother Nick, your parting shots.
There was a tourist walking down the streets of Chinatown, an Australian tourist. He sees a tattoo shop, and in a tattoo shop outside the window, he sees a couple of tattoos written on the board, and one of the tattoos was written "Born to Lose." So he walks into this tattoo shop and he finds this little Chinese man, and he asks him, "Tell me something, are these tattoos that can be done or tattoos that have been done?" And the Chinese man says something very profound. He says to him, "These tattoos are tattoos that have been done." And he says, "But what kind of person would walk in here and want to tattoo on his body, born to lose, on his body?" And he says, "I'm baffled." And the Chinese man keeps quiet and he looks at him. "A lot of people have come, maybe 1, 2, or maybe 10, I'm not sure." And he says, "But what kind of person would that be?" And he says, "My man, tattooed on mind long before tattooed on body." Yep. There are a lot of things that have been tattooed onto our minds. We tattoo a lot of things onto our society, onto our children. There's a lot of things that we need to untattoo in our minds, because then those things end up manifesting themselves into action, and we wonder where that action came from. So whatever it is that you actually allow to be tattooed on your mind, please be careful.
Wow. Liberation of the mind. Africa is the liberation of the mind. Liberation of the mind. I couldn't have said it any better, my brother Nick. My late husband, and of course, may his soul rest in peace. He passed on 4 years ago on this very day, the 2nd of July. He used to say this, to say liberation of the mind is the most important thing in our society, because he was quite passionate about the issue of making sure that our nations work and they become successful. So we celebrate him today. We're not crying, we're celebrating today, because indeed he was a giant that lived among ourselves. So let me give you an opportunity to share your social media handles and your email addresses, so that the people that like to have further engagements with you, they know exactly where to find you.
Oh, mine is easy. I'm just Chris Fire on Facebook, Chris Fire, and should I also give my email address?
Yes.
It's Christopher Fire, Christopher with P-H-E-R, Christopher okay. Fire. The Fire is F-A-Y-A, not in English. F-A-Y, Christopher Fire 1 at gmail.com. Yeah. Also, yeah. I think that those where you can find me.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Nick. social media handles and your email address.
Email address is nicknzama@gmail.com. nicknzama@gmail.com. And Facebook, I'm Nick Nzama. And then on Instagram, I am Nick_B_Nzama.
Okay. All right. Nick _.
I'm still even new on Instagram. My daughter forced me to be on Instagram. I don't even know how it works.
Understood.
All right. Bafaya, may I ask that you pray for us before we close?
I'll pray my vernacular. It's too personal. But we just thank God for this opportunity to touch on such matters. We have people, we've made our mistakes, but we're talking on behalf of your children that you love so much. Children, people are made in your image. You respect them so much. So even we are ready, we're even willing to help them change their lives. We offer Jesus because we wanted people to be able to rectify their mistakes. So for everything that has been done in our society by men, by the parents and forefathers, we repent. Give us grace and our children and the coming generations to change and become good citizens so they can enjoy the land and the wealth that's been given, because there are many opportunities that are there. Even those that are who are greedy, touch their hearts, might or to be able to be willing to share. Baba siyabonga, bless uzodwa ne program yakhe. Bless brother Nick so much ngalento ayishare na program yakhe baba. We give you praise. Sikhona abazwile abazishilo nabanye bekhona change baba. We spoke for just because we wanted to change, not just because we want to speak. Siyacela baba ulungile ukuthi manje uqhubeke wenza umsebenzi wakho la usuqedile uqedele ngegama lenkosi uJesu waseNazaretha. Amen.
Oh, uqalile umsebenzi uzokufeza empilweni zethu, akasoze asitele, asifela eCalvary, akasoze asitele, asifela eCalvary. Amen. I just had to do that worship just at this moment because I needed everyone who's watching us right now and all the people that will be watching this program later on our YouTube page to know that owasifela eCalvary akasoze asdela, owasifela eCalvary akasoze wasdela, owasifela eCalvary akasoze wasdela. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Today we were launching our new talk show, which is Thriving in Abundance, and of course it is anchored in the word, because we do these things not just for us, but we're doing it for his glory. Let Africa rise. Let Africa rise. I would like to take this opportunity to wish you everything of the best for your organizations. You will thrive. You will thrive, and there will be change in our nations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And God give you strength to carry on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I received that. Next week on Thursday, we are going on again. Men's Month, we are on it, definitely on it.